Undroppables Playbook, a football podcast. With your hosts, Ashley and Michael, please sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Undroppables Playbook, a football podcast presented by the Undroppables and sponsored by Analyst Depot. I am one of your hosts, Ashley. This is my other co-host, Michael Duncan. How are you?
I'm good. I got distracted on Twitter because apparently they've posted new pictures of Neptune and its rings, and I just wanted to know why Neptune was trending.
Huh, interesting.
So that's
Saturn's
what I
rings
was
are
doing.
better.
I have no opinion on any of the rings of
What?
any of the planets, really.
How can you not love Saturn's rings?
I don't.
Like 99% sure there's diamonds in them.
Sure, I believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to ask me what jersey I'm wearing?
I would love to. Duncan, what jersey are you wearing?
This is a Water Dogs jersey from the PLL, which is a professional lacrosse league. I don't know if that's what it's saying. I think it's Premier,
Yes,
but it doesn't matter. I spent my Sunday watching professional lacrosse. I don't know anything about lacrosse.
He had to have somebody explain it to him.
I did. There was a man in front of me who was very nice and explaining things to me. Meanwhile, there was a man to my right that was very angry that I was cheering very loudly. And I thought he was going to fight me. And I thought to myself, if I'm ever going to get in a fight over one of my sports teams, I'd prefer it not being the Water Dogs. Because I just have very little invested in lacrosse as a whole. But they did win the championship, so
congratulations.
Proven once and for all that Water Dogs swim faster. So yep.
Congratulations. I'm very happy for you.
Thank you.
How do you feel that you lost in our dynasty league because of your own quarterback?
It's not it happened to me multiple times this week.
You had to play Jalen Hurts a lot this week? I
did. I played against him a lot. And in the one league where I had him, I was getting blown out so bad it didn't even matter.
That's tough.
Yeah. And I was texting my one friend, and because he had Stephon Diggs and Jalen Hurts.
Oh.
And I was projected to win by I had an 80% chance of winning going into Monday night. And he texted me and he goes, "Yeah, I guess my team likes the Monday Night Lights." And I was like, honestly, I can't even be mad. I'm sitting here watching the Eagles, and it's just great. So I just didn't even care. Blake, you're going to have to stick around till later. Regardless, So I love Jalen Hurts, but I am sad that I lost to him a lot this weekend.
Yeah, it was a tough week to play against him, I think. In both real football and fantasy football. You had a high projected chance of winning against me too. And then but then I saw I had him, and I was like, I have a chance, and there was a chance, and I won. Either way, let's jump into it. We have a lot to talk about today. As always, the injury report will start us off. So for quarterbacks, Browns quarterback Jacoby Brissett in the post-game conference said that in the fourth quarter he was suffering through an ankle injury, but will be fully good to go for Thursday's game. Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert has some sort of fractured rib cartilage and played through it. He is currently listed as day-to-day and should be day-to-day for a little while, but he says he should be good to go.
That was some of the weirdest stuff I've ever seen on a football field. The back-to-back plays of him having a clear path to running for a first down and literally not being able to move. Mm-hmm. So he throws it away and then just throws an absolute dime to former Eagle great DeAndre Carter. One of the most bizarre sequences I think I've ever seen in professional football.
It was even better. Even better on Twitter because it was like, "Oh no, Justin Herbert is down. This is scary." Justin Herbert's back up. Justin Herbert's fine. I mean, look at this. Well, he's fine.
But that one play, he looked like he was dying.
Yes.
I was concerned. I was like, "Get that man off the field!" Yeah. Good Lord.
It was very, very strange.
Yeah.
Saints quarterback Jameis Winston says he's dealing with 4 fractures in his back, but that he is fine and will continue to play. Reporters are basically saying expect to see him on the injury report for a lot of the season.
Yeah, speaking of really weird, this was one of the weirdest notifications I think I've ever gotten. I was live doing the Start Sit show, and I just get a notification that says Jameis Winston has 4 fractures in his back. And I know I said to you, I don't even really understand how back fracturing works. I understand it's a thing, but I can't imagine having 4 of them. I only have one back. Having 4 fractures in it sounds horrible, and he probably shouldn't be playing.
No.
So,
probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not. Either way, we have one big one to talk about. And that would be that 49ers quarterback Trey Lance was carted off the field with an air cast after a nasty hit. It was expected to be bad. It was worse. He was almost immediately ruled out, and shortly after it was announced that he will miss the remainder of the season due to a broken ankle that required surgery. He did have that surgery already. Jimmy G, who they decided to keep on, will be back as the starter. This will be basically his 3rd season without playing. In 2020, he had the COVID year, only played one game.
That's what you mean. Okay.
2021 was the rookie year with only 2 starts in week 5 and 17. The 2022 season, he started week 1 in the rain and then got injured in week 2. So he has really not played in 3 years. Really tough look for him. And it's sad. He hasn't played, and all he's been wanting to do is prove himself, and tries to and breaks his leg. Knew immediately that it was not a good one.
It sucks.
I texted you and you were like, after I texted you originally, it was like, oh no, Trey Lance. And then texted you after and it's like, oh, this is bad. And you were like, oh, I thought it was just like a small thing.
Because once again, I was at a Water Dogs game.
I was
not actively watching football at that point.
Yeah. 4 running backs. Cardinals running back James Conner was left and did not return to the game against the Raiders with an ankle injury. He is listed as day-to-day. Patriots running back Damian Harris injured his knee late in the 4th quarter. There's really not much else that was released about it, so I'm assuming it's fine. Falcons running back Damian Williams was placed on IR, and 49ers running back Tyrion David Price was out with a high ankle sprain and will be out multiple weeks. 4 wide receivers. Ravens wide receiver Devin Duvernay was evaluated for a concussion and then placed in protocol and did not return to the game. Broncos wide receiver Jerry Jeudy left the game with a rib injury in the 1st quarter and did not return, but X-rays revealed that there were no significant injuries. Raiders wide receiver Hunter Renfrow also had a concussion and is in protocol throughout this week, and Chiefs wide receiver Mecole Hardman left the game with an ankle injury. For tight ends, the Cowboys tight end Dalton Schultz left the game towards the end of it because of a right knee injury. Originally, it was feared to be ACL, but it does seem he avoided that. He's expected to miss some time with what is now known as a PCL injury, and that is something that Ezekiel Elliott suffered with last year. So we'll see how it works out.
Played through it, but he was noticeably worse.
Yep. For our defense, special teams, offensive line, Buccaneers offensive tackle Josh Wells did not return to the game with a calf injury. Titans offensive tackle Taylor Lewin was carted off the field with a knee injury.
Excuse me?
What?
Say his name one more time.
Taylor Lewin.
Okay, you said Lewin.
Oh, I was just reading fast. Sorry if I said it wrong. It's
okay. I just haven't heard that before. Taylor Lewin.
Luan. Browns defensive end Jadeveon Clowney was ruled out with an ankle injury and will not play this week. Broncos cornerback Patrick Surtain sustained a shoulder injury and did not return to play. Rams guard Tremaine Ankrum Jr. was carted off the field during the game. It was later revealed he suffered a fractured fibula and will be out indefinitely. Patriots safety Kyle Duggar exited Sunday's game with a knee injury and did not return. Giants defensive end Leonard Williams exited Sunday's game with a knee injury and did not return. It was later revealed to be an MCL sprain. Seahawks guard Damian Lewis was ruled out with a thigh injury. Buccaneers defensive end Akeem Hicks did not return with a foot injury. And the scariest one of them all was Bills cornerback Dane Jackson, who had a scary friendly fire hit with a neck injury. The ambulance was immediately brought out onto the field, which doesn't happen very often. He was down making a tackle, and another player on his team came over and rocked his neck backwards. It was like an injury that could very well leave someone paralyzed. He was brought to the hospital. He is well. All extremities are good. He is probably going to be like in concussion protocol, but
and he's been released from the hospital.
He was released and seems to be doing well, and really definitely missed the worst of it, because that could have been so much worse. And then I just wanted to add in that we did have some big names that did not play this week. That includes J.K. Dobbins, who's on our good news list. J.K. Dobbins was a full participant at practice this week. Saints, Alvin Kamara. Chargers, Keenan Allen. Buccaneers, Chris Godwin and Julio Jones. Bills, Gabe Davis. Colts, Michael Pittman. And 49ers, George Kittle all did not play this week. What is going on with George Kittle?
I don't know, man. I don't know. He's always been a little bit banged up, but it is just, I don't know. San Francisco is just weird, man.
Yeah.
It's just weird. I would hate to play there solely because it just seems like everyone that plays there dies.
Yeah, some way or another. So that about wraps that up. We don't really have much news. That we also didn't really focus on the news this week. But big one, Marshawn Lattimore and Mike Evans were ejected from the Saints-Bucks Saints-Buck game in the fourth quarter after a fight. It was announced on Monday that Mike Evans will be suspended for one game. This is the third time that the pair have fought with each other, and I believe it's Mike Evans' second suspension.
Yeah, and he did appeal it, and it was upheld today by the person they brought in to hear the appeal. So
yeah, and it seems it started because Marshawn Lattimore was talking smack to Tom Brady, and then Mike Evans came like running like a bat out of hell, and then jumped on him and tackled him down to the ground and tried to fight him. It's
not funny, but it's hysterical.
It is, and they just never stop fighting, and
no, it's great.
It's wild. But
it's like, who was it? Andre Johnson and the Janoris Jenkins. Is that who he would always fight with?
Sounds about right.
All right, you keep going. I got to figure this out.
I was just going to talk about how Mike Evans, lip readers read Mike Evans' lips as he was talking to the referees, and he said, "That's Tom Brady. What do you want me to do?" Saying that he basically said, it's Tom Brady. I need to fight Marshawn Lattimore for talking some smack. Also, no one really had any right to talk smack. That game's...
No, that was a horrible... Also, Cortland Finnegan is who I was thinking of.
Gotcha.
Yes, Andre John. Yeah, you've seen that? I'm sure.
Probably.
I'll send it to you afterward. That's like, I feel like one of the biggest fights the NFL has had. That, and there was who was always fighting. It was oh my God, it was the Broncos cornerback and the wide receiver for the Raiders. But he started on the Niners. Okay, just keep talking. I'll figure it out.
Speaking of the Bucks, we have two news for the Bucks. Tom Brady will be given Wednesdays off from practice. Sources says he'll still be in the building for meetings, walkthroughs, etc. Wednesdays are notoriously when they put the game plan out, so it seems like he just won't practice, but we will be involved in that. And the Buccaneers also signed Cole Beasley, who finally has a team. He has a team and no vaccines. And former Cowboys linebacker Jalen Smith is signed with the Giants.
Michael Crabtree and Aqib Talib. I believe Aqib Talib.
I love that name.
Tear his chain off. And I think it happened once and they got in a big fight. And then it happened the second time on the first play of the game. Just immediately. And I kind of respect that from Aqib Talib.
Get it out of the way.
I'm not even wasting any time. Here we go.
That happens in hockey when the Caps and it's not a hockey podcast, but when the Caps and the Rangers played each other after all of their beef, that they just started fighting before the puck was even dropped. Just get it out of the way and be done with it.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. There was a fight at the lacrosse game I went to.
Was there on the field?
There was, yeah.
I was making sure it wasn't a fan fight.
No. I almost got in a fan fight.
I know. That's why I wanted to ask.
Yeah.
No? Was it a good one?
Yeah, it was not bad. It was fine. Someone lost the helmet. I think
fights aren't as fun as hockey fights. Hockey fights are the best fights.
No, yeah, I agree. I mean,
yeah,
they should be.
Also, football benches don't clear a lot. I want to talk about that. When they get into little scruffs and stuff, they don't really clear a lot. But in that fight with them, the whole bench is cleared. Both teams.
I think that's because everyone knew it was going to happen. They were almost ready for it.
Yep.
Oh my God!
Did you see the video? Oh my God! Did you see it was really, truly. Did you see the video of the cameras that were pointed at the coaches?
No.
Oh my God!
Oh wait, is it when Bruce Arians? Why was Bruce Arians on the sideline? First of all, but he sent Mike Evans, didn't he?
I don't know, but there was another. I'm just thinking about the coach next to him. I don't honestly. I watched it once, so I didn't really pay attention. But the other coach was had this shocked expression of oh my God on his face. That was pure gold.
Incredible. I'll have to find that.
Truly. I'll find it for you after. Anyway, we're going to jump into your my new favorite portion of the show and your segment alone. Give them a rundown of what it is. We do have a name for it now. Why don't you tell them?
Yeah, so this is going to be my 15-second frenzy. I'm going to go through every game of this past week and give a 15-second summary of what happened. Important news things, players, plays, really kind of whatever I want to say for 15 seconds. Ashley's going to time me. She's going to let me know when I have to move on to the next game, and I've got 15 seconds to say whatever I want about every team or every game. So, yeah.
Perfect. I will count you in again. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, Chiefs versus Chargers on Thursday night. Justin Herbert looked like he was dead, and then he just fired an absolute rifle to DeAndre Carter. The AFC West is a lot of fun. Patrick Mahomes is still incredible. The Chiefs are probably the second best team in the league behind the Bills, but I'm excited to see more of those division matchups year-round. Also, thank God Justin Herbert's okay. Miami versus the Ravens. Holy shit, Tua Tagovailoa. Holy shit, Lamar Jackson. Waddle and Tyreek are both very fast and insane, and it's crazy that they're on the same team. Also, I think Mike McDaniel is probably my favorite for coach of the year at this point in time.
Next.
The Ravens, not so much. Jets versus the Browns. You cannot spell elite without Joe Flacco. The age-old argument is back. Joe Flacco is incredible. He leads the league in pass attempts, and he should because he's Joe Flacco. Nick Chubb is also really good, but he should have pulled a Brian Westbrook at the end of the game, taken a knee, and there's no way the Jets could have won. The Lions versus Washington. Washington's defense is absolutely horrendous, and I thought that's all that Ron Rivera was good for. Other than being just a good person in general, but it's fine. On the other hand, the Lions offense is absolutely legit. Amon-Ra St. Brown is an incredible, maybe elite wide receiver, and it's going to be even more fun when Jameson Williams comes back. Jaguars versus the Colts. Dougie P gets the best of his former offensive coordinator, Frank Reich. Also, there is a really good chance I'm starting to feel like this might be Frank Reich's final season in Indy because they look horrendous. Trevor Lawrence is quietly having a really, really solid season. Oh, wow. I'm behind. Bucks versus the Saints. Mike Evans truly hates Marshawn Lattimore, and it's hilarious to me that he just looks for any excuse to get kicked out of a game. His reasoning was also great because he said it was purely because of Tom Brady. Also, Tom has not yet found his footing this season, and the Saints should not be playing Jameis Winston with 4 fractures in his back. Giants versus the Panthers. There's kind of a good chance that the Giants can start 4-0, which is ridiculous because they're just not a good team. DJ Moore deserves better, and I truly believe that. I want to give him the world. Kenny Golladay is the highest cap hit at wide receiver in the entire NFL, and he played a total of 2 snaps this past week. The Patriots versus the Steelers. When are we going to see Kenny Pickett? Because the Mitch Trubisky thing is not working, but also that team is kind of hot garbage on offense. Najee Harris desperately misses Big Ben because that's all of the free yards that he got in the billion drop receptions that he would get behind the line of scrimmage. Also, shout out to Nelson Aguilar on the deep bomb touchdown. Niners versus the Seahawks. Rest in peace, Trey Lance. That really sucks. It's going to be his 3rd season before he's really able to actually play. Jimmy G signing looks worth it. Absolutely. The Niners lose another running back, which is 2 in 2 weeks. Also, how long until DK Metcalf requests a trade from the Seahawks? Rams versus the Falcons. How do you almost get 28-3 by the Falcons? That's embarrassing, Sean McVay. You need to figure out your life and your defense. Drake London is legit, and he deserved to be the first wide receiver taken, and he's showing that. Also, Matt Stafford remembered that Allen Robinson exists. The Bengals. What are you doing wrong? We're going to talk about that later, but good Lord, man. I said last week that the Cowboys might be the worst team in the NFL, and I stand by that because they're just not good. But wow, the only good thing they have is Michael Parsons, and it showed us how bad the Bengals' offensive line is. Denver versus Washington. The Broncos are broken, and Nathaniel Hackett might be the worst head coach in the league after a couple more horrible blunders in just game management this past week. I got really angry as I was watching replays and learning about it because, again, I was watching the Water Dogs. Meanwhile, Houston is painfully average. The Cardinals versus the Raiders. Kyler is just kind of ridiculous. I don't understand why he can't just play the way he played at the end of the game for the entire freaking game. The overtime itself was one of the weirdest sequences I've ever seen, including the NFL history longest fumble recovery touchdown in overtime. Packers versus the Bears. Aaron Rodgers still owns them, but Justin Fields only threw it 11 times. And I'm trying to figure out whether or not the Bears coaching staff really thinks that that's the best way that they're going to be able to win games, or if they just really haven't found their identity yet, because I really don't know what to make of Justin Fields still.
Next.
Bills versus Titans. Josh Allen MVP. It's really that simple. Also, Stephon Diggs is about to have his Cooper Kupp season. 3 touchdowns on Monday night. Didn't even matter that Gabe Davis wasn't there. The Titans are an absolute shit show, and it was extremely, extremely predictable.
Next.
Eagles versus Vikings. Holy Jalen Hurts. If it's not Josh Allen, it's going to be Jalen Hurts. The Jalen Reagor revenge game did not go well at all. Justin Jefferson is Darius Slay's son, and Kirk Cousins still can't play in primetime. Go Birds!
Perfect timing.
Thank you.
You worked out well on that one.
Thank
I
you.
let you run long on one of them because I was so I was the Lions. I was so enthralled with what you were saying about the Lions that I accidentally gave you 17 seconds.
They're surprisingly exciting.
I know, and I just had to hear you say at least one thing about Amon-Ra St. Brown because
He's very good.
Wow, very good, very very good. But yeah, lots to unpack there. Anything specifically that you want to talk about before we go into our winless teams segment?
Just one thing.
Okay.
Go Bears! Go Bears!
I can't.
So as an Eagles fan, I had nothing against the Vikings before 2017. But then they claimed they were going to come and take over our city. They stood in front of our Rocky statue and pretended like they took it over. And then they made absolute fools of themselves. And since that day, I've hated them with a passion. And I just want them to know it's their own damn fault.
I know. I'm surprised you wore your Water Dogs jersey. Wow, the New York accent came out there. But because it is purple. So
Well, they swim faster, Ashley.
I'm sorry, but your jersey was purple. So
The Vikings suck. I'm not afraid of it. Also, did you hear that? So Kyle Brandt tweeted to watch what happens when to watch Justin Jefferson's post-game press conference if they win. And we'll never know what it was. But this dude was about to clown on this city. And it's hysterical because when you do that kind of stuff, you can't plan ahead for it and then tell someone because you look like a moron.
You do.
And it's not even like he played like it's not like he went out and had 180 yards and 2 touchdowns and they lost. The dude got just destroyed all game long. Again, I really like Justin Jefferson. I wish the Eagles took him. I did not think that way at the time. I was wrong. It's fine. Dude, you're a clown, man. You're a clown. So whatever. And
the thing is, like, every time you say things like that, like you're gonna go like into a city and you're gonna take over and you're gonna do all these things. It happened similar with Boston in the NBA Finals when they were like, they keep clowning us too much. We're gonna go in there. We're gonna rule Boston, and all they did was just clown them harder. Like the fans clowned them harder. Like you can't say that to, especially a town like Philly or Boston or New York. Like those are big areas with crazy people, and you can't go in and say that and then not live up to that. So you only say that if you're like 100% positive you're going to win, which there is no certainties in sports.
Yes,
so
absolutely,
it's pretty stupid. But I did hear you say Josh Allen MVP, Jalen Hurts runner-up. I agree with that. Any thoughts about some other contenders so far?
No, but there was actually one thing that I wanted to touch on that I did not mention. And that was my favorite quote of the week from another one of my favorite head coaches in the NFL. Just being an absolute moron. Arthur Smith was, when asked about Kyle Pitts' lack of targets, said, quote, "It's not fantasy football. We're just trying to win." Okay, that's stupid.
It's not working.
That's really stupid. That's the dumbest answer I've heard all day. No one asked him in terms of relating to fantasy football. Like, it's such a stupid answer.
And it's so stupid too. Like, he was your first round pick. So if you're trying to win, and then you're saying by not playing Kyle Pitts, you made a mistake by drafting him in the first round. Like
and it's not like he shouldn't be getting the ball. Like, this isn't Jalen Reagor a year later. Like, this is Kyle Pitts is insanely talented. He's an athletic freak. He's basically lined up at wide receiver all the time. Like, I hate it. I hate it because, like, I can't stand when coaches feel the need to like talk down to the media or whoever is asking their questions. Like there was one time actually that Doug Peterson did it, and it really rubbed me the wrong way. Someone asked him about Carson Wentz not being able to hit like layup balls, meaning like why can't I think of the term? The thing that you do to running backs when they're coming out of the backfield. Check downs. Thank you. I keep wanting to say drop downs, and that's a menu. But no, check downs. And Doug Peterson was like, well, first of all, there's no layups in football. And the media guy was just like, well, come on. Like, you know what I mean? And it's just
Yeah.
like, and then he's like, you never played the game. Like, there are no, like, it's like, no, like, don't. Arthur Smith, you're 0-2, I think. Yeah, you're 0-2. No one's asking about fantasy football. They're asking why one of the most talented players on your entire team has 4 catches over the first 2 weeks, because that's horrible coaching. So I don't know. Really, really pissed me off when I saw that, because it's just like, you don't need to be an ass.
Yeah.
You don't need to be an ass.
And
Admit
you don't
that
have
you need
any
to get him
right
the ball
to
more.
right now either.
No.
You don't have any right to.
If they're 2-0, fine, whatever. Like, he's fine. You're clearly what you're doing is working, but
It's
what
working.
you're doing is not working. You're being an ass because you're frustrated, but you're the one that's going to be able to change. Like, it just pisses me off. It really pisses
I agree.
me off.
And there's just, like I said, there's so many things wrapped up in that 1-2 sentence answer, because again, you're getting into 1, you're talking down to the media. 2, you don't really have a leg to stand on. 3, then you're saying it's a mistake that you drafted Kyle Pitts because if you play him, you can't win. So you're wrapping up all of these things in this little 2-second blurb.
Yeah.
It's so wrong.
It's very dumb.
I know. And I figured I'd give you a little bit of space if you wanted to talk about your Eagles. I know it wasn't on our agenda for today, but we were texting during the game and you were going to go a little bit crazy. So if you wanted to talk about your Eagles a little bit.
I mean, I kind of did my Go Birds thing, but God, Jalen Hurts just looks like a different quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it doesn't take an Eagles fan to notice that. The dude he was throwing dimes all night.
I texted you in such small windows too. It's the contested catches and the small windows that he's able to thread the needle was incredible during that game.
And I think 2 of his best passes didn't even end up counting. Like, one of them was dropped by Dallas Goedert. He dropped it into a bucket with triple coverage, just in a place where only Dallas Goedert can get it. And then one where he was running to the left and he hit Quez Watkins like 30 yards downfield. I think it ended up being, it was probably an ineligible receiver downfield, because we just have so many of those called, which is annoying. But
no, that one was the offensive pass interference.
No, that was a Devontae Smith one on the right side of the field. No, it was either holding or ineligible man downfield.
I couldn't remember who the OPI was on because I hated that call.
That's that was a horrible call. The refs were all over the place. But no, that was just a beautiful ball. Like, Jalen Hurts just looks like a different player. And I love the way he handles himself off the field. I mean, like, he looked legitimately unsatisfied. And the first thing he said, like, they kept trying to get him to talk about all the good things. He was like, yeah, we didn't score in the second half, guys. Like, doesn't matter. We had a half a game where we didn't score. And that interception was not his fault. Like, I think he was still kind of getting whatever he wanted with the Vikings defense. There were just some bad penalties, but he's staying focused, and it's awesome. He's just so easy to root for. And now that the play is backing up all those feelings, it's just.
Yep. And he's incredibly dynamic at the quarterback position now that he has what looks like an incredible upgrade and throw in the passing game. Because last year that was the downfall a little bit, was the passing game. He was good, he was average or maybe above average, but this is like elite passing game the way he looked in that first half. Yes, they slowed it down in the second half and he didn't look as great. But no matter what, like, it's not flashes. It's not one play. It was a sustained half, which is what I know everybody was looking for from Jalen Hurts. And I
thought it was a sustained game. Like,
it was, but like,
I don't think there was a single. I don't think
first
there was a single pass that I winced at.
Yeah.
Like, there was not, like, even the interception, which again was not his fault. Like, just straight up, Kenny Golladay had bricks for hands in that moment. Not Kenny Golladay, Kenny Gainwell.
I was gonna say.
I mean, Kenny Golladay probably wouldn't have caught it either, but he wouldn't have been on the field. There was just not a single pass, and like it's exactly what you said. Like, it's consistency. It's not a flash. It is. He looked incredible all game, and he played in a way that was completely the opposite of the way he played in week 1. And he showed he can win in both ways and run the offense in both ways, and completed over 80% of his passes. It just, crazy. Just an insanely good game. And like, I think it's reasonable to say that the Eagles are the best team in the NFC right now.
Yeah. Hands down.
Hands
down. Hey, you said something about Kenny Golladay, so I just had to share a fun fact I learned this week, that even though Kenny Golladay is like barely on the field, whenever he's on the field, the Giants score. I have 50% of the time. Interesting fun fact. Doesn't mean he's doing anything, but
No, I like it though.
it's a fun fact, like a weird little tidbit of knowledge for you.
That's like almost.
I don't
worse
really
than,
want to
like,
talk about
not
that
watching your
situation.
jerseys when you're watching at home.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep. I do those
God.
things too, though.
I mean, me, of course.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like incredibly superstitious that I'm like, all of the little things. That's like, oh well, I switched seats.
Would you say
Between
all
like
the
one and
small
two.
things?
What?
Would you say all of the small things?
What did I say? I'm very
You
confused.
said all the little things, and I said, would
Oh.
you say all the small things?
Sure.
I'm referencing Blink 182.
Yeah, I was never a big Blink 182 fan.
But it's a very famous song.
Which one? Which
All the
line?
small things.
Oh yeah, no. I didn't know that was the name.
It sounds like I all of a sudden I feel like I'm like 10 years older than you.
You do this like once every 3 weeks.
All the
But
small
you
things
say
is a
something that I
song
don't
that
know.
everyone should know if they grew
I'll
up
listen
around
to
the
it
period of
after.
time that we.
I probably do, but like once it's on, I'll probably remember it.
You
but
should.
I
This is
don't
not
right
a
now.
song that you should need to listen to. I'm like, if you were 5 years younger or like 5 years older, that's inexcusable as well. But like if you were like 5 years younger, I'd say maybe. But this is ridiculous.
How much younger am I than you?
Like a year or something, isn't it?
Mm.
Year and a half. I'm not going to give my full.
I'm not
Actually, I
gonna
think
give my
pretty
age.
sure my full birth date is. Well, I'm 26, but I think my full birth date is on Twitter. But
Yeah, so yeah, a year.
we can just talk about this.
You have your year on Twitter?
Apparently, but I don't know if it's visible. To be fair.
Oh yeah, so you can make it not visible to viewers.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, my year is not visible. Okay.
Okay. Mine
This
is.
is unimportant.
Yeah.
But this is embarrassing, and if anyone agrees with me, feel free to harass Ashley on Twitter.
You can. It's
give
fine.
you permission.
It's fine. You do
for
it
not
anyway.
knowing all the small things.
You do it anyway. So
I'd play it,
it's
but I
fine.
don't want to like get copyrighted.
Yeah, that would not be fun. Anyway, we do have some teams to talk about. We have a segment talking about all of our winless teams so far. So our teams that are 0-2. It's pretty early on for a lot of this, but there are some teams on here that you wouldn't expect to be on here. Do we want to go in any specific order? Do we want to save the most surprising ones for last?
I'm gonna follow your lead.
Okay, so why don't we talk about some? Let's see. Let's talk about the Falcons first, because you were already talking about Arthur Smith. So let's talk about the Falcons first. They have.
Why would you delete it from the show sheet?
Sorry, I was moving it up there.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to rearrange the order.
It has information on it. You're just deleting it.
No, I was rearranging the order. So Falcons have played the Saints and the Rams so far. They were playing fairly well against the Rams in the first half, and then crumbled and kept it close with the Saints to lead it into overtime. Throughout the segment, I think we're going to play it by ear. We don't really have a game plan, but talk about what's going wrong and maybe some things they can fix.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is Arthur Smith. I don't think he's a very good head coach. Completely aside from what I already said about him, I don't think he's a very good head coach. But also, it's not surprising that they're 0-2 because they have very little talent on their team. Like on offense, they have Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and a 31-year-old wide receiver playing running back in Cordero Patterson, who is talented. They do not have a lot of offensive line talent. Marcus Mariota is the quarterback. They have a very good cornerback out of Clemson, whose name is escaping me. Not a ton else on their team. Like they don't have talent. So I don't really know why anyone would be surprised if they're 0-2 after playing the Saints and the Rams. So they're definitely one of the lesser surprising teams on this.
Yep. So that's kind of the way I have it arranged, at least somewhat, is least surprising to most surprising. Like you said, I feel like there's not really much to talk about here. I think this was fairly expected. I could have seen them pulling away from the Saints a little bit, but again, I do think the Saints have a better roster overall. I feel like this franchise needs like a complete refurbishment and a lot more talent, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them spend in this upcoming offseason to try and get a little bit ahead there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most realistic thing is they're going to be toward the top of the draft.
Yeah,
it's a really good quarterback class, supposedly. I'm not going to say that I know anything about. I know the top two names, and that's pretty much it. at this point in time. But it's supposedly a very good quarterback class. So, yeah, they're probably going to be competing for one of those quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a pretty good place to start. So,
yeah. Do you think we get to see Desmond Ridder at all this year?
yeah, I think so. If they keep losing, I don't think they'll have a reason not to. And to be fair, I don't think the reason they're losing is Marcus Mariota's fault.
Yeah.
I think he's playing fine. But like I said, they just don't have a lot of talent on this team. And honestly, I think they're probably closer to winning both of those games than I would have expected them to, considering the amount of talent. So maybe I'm not giving Arthur Smith enough credit, but I might just hate him now. I already didn't like him. But
I was just looking up Mariota's stats. He's 59 pass attempts, tied for 23rd, 411 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and 2 interceptions.
Yeah.
Overall player grade of 59.5 on PFF.
Sounds about right.
And like a 60 of passing. So again, it's not horrible. So I agree with you. I don't think he's the reason. I think it's just that there's like not much going on there.
Yeah,
there's not really much of a spark, you know.
Yeah.
Seem uninspired.
I mean, Kyle Pitts has 4 receptions. So.
Yeah, exactly. Next, we can talk about the Texans who have, okay, so I put the Texans and the Colts in here because technically they haven't won. They tied. So Texans have played the Colts. They tied the Colts and the Broncos, which ended up being a very boring game, and they weren't like shut out of. So, Dallas.
I don't know, man. I don't get why they fired their head coach from last season, whose name is David something. It's escaping me. Lovie Smith is fine. There's not a lot of talent on this team, but they've been in games that they probably no one would have expected them to really be in. We all expected more out of the Colts, and God knows we expected more out of the Broncos. But they've been in they've been in these games, and it's been close. And I think partly in credit to their defense. I think the defense has been really solid. Davis Mills hasn't really taken the step forward that I think people were hoping that he'd take if he was going to be able to capture that starting role for the future. We've talked about it a couple times, but a 3rd round pick, like he's going to have to really give them a reason to not take a quarterback high. And I don't think he's done that so far. It's 2 weeks, but even still,
like he's fine.
Yeah, no, he's been fine. I
love Davis Mills.
Yeah, I mean, me too. He has a very long neck. But yeah, I mean, there's just not a ton of talent. I don't have a lot of thoughts on like necessarily like their coaching staff or the way that they're game planning. I just think, I mean, they kept up with 2 teams that supposedly have a lot more talent than them. And I think generally speaking, that's a win. So.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think this is kind of where we expected them to be, at least last time we spoke, was not winning a lot of games, but being okay, being decent, not being, a complete dumpster fire. And I feel like that's the way to describe it, is they're just like hanging on, putting up a good fight, but overall not coming up victorious. They're another one with not like a super strong roster. There's nothing incredibly superstar about this roster, but they're keeping it together, which is, I think, more than other teams could with this roster and what's been going on there. So I expect them to win a handful of games. I don't expect them to really super come out of this slump era they're in. But yeah, I also, his last name was Culley, by the way. David Culley.
David Culley, thank you.
David Culley.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Long time, actually, Eagles wide receivers coach, I believe.
Interesting.
He spent a lot of time with Andy Reid before he got hired. Yeah, so next up are the Panthers. And this is the first one where I think they have too much talent to be 0-2 right now.
Yeah.
Like Matt Rule he's a bad head coach. I would bet that he does not make it through the season.
Really?
I think he's already used all of his scapegoat cards. He fired Joe Brady halfway through last season. Not even halfway through. I think it was like pretty early.
That was to save his own job.
Well,
we talked about that. It was completely to save his own job.
That's what I mean. He's used all of his scapegoats. He's switched the quarterback 1,000 times. And granted, they haven't been great quarterbacks, but I mean, the one thing that'll save him is he got a ridiculously large contract because there was some weird stuff going on behind the scenes about that because owners were pissed because there's no salary cap when it comes to coaches, so you can kind of pay them whatever you want. But the brand new Panthers owner at the time paid him a lot more money than a lot of other coaches, and people were angry because like that's gonna like raise the price of coaching. Where weird, stupid stuff that was all behind the scenes, and obviously billionaires should not be worrying that much about.
Yeah.
But regardless, like maybe that's what saves him. But DJ Moore deserves better. That's really what it comes down to for me. DJ Moore deserves better. I had a lot of praise for Matt Rule and the GM that he was hired around the same time as early in their tenure. I thought they drafted really well. I thought their game plan for a long-term rebuild was good. It didn't pan out.
And he's had a decent amount of time. I was just looking up exactly when he got hired, and he was hired as Carolina's head coach in January of 2020. So he's had a decent amount of time. It's not a long time, but 3 seasons is enough to tell when someone is good or not.
For me, three seasons is almost always like if I hire a coach, save it being a Joe Judge type of hire where you know almost immediately that it's just not good stuff, or like Urban Meyer. 3 years is has always been I want to give them 3 years. Like as a fan, that's what I try and do.
Yeah.
It
takes time to develop, same way it does with a player.
Yeah. They have to learn, but like if they're not learning from their mistakes, if they're like they're not developing anything, and it doesn't feel like the Panthers have gotten considerably better since Matt Rule has been here. I think they got better in like their first season with him. Like I think I felt positive about the things going on, but they have too much talent to be as consistently bad as they are.
Yeah.
So yeah, not a lot of good things. I don't think he makes it through the season.
Interesting. I like that. I can't wait for our hot seat episode. That was one of my favorites of ours last year. Very excited. There's already a lot of people on your hot seat. I know that for sure.
Oh, real quick. Jonathan Gannon, I roasted him last week in my 15-second frenzy, and I do want to say that I forgive him for week 1. He did a great job in week 2, and he is officially off my hot seat. So until next week.
Yes.
So I just wanted to revisit that real quick.
Congratulations to him.
Yes. Congrats, Jonathan.
Congrats. Baker Mayfield also hasn't been playing well, but again, I am not putting the blame on Baker Mayfield because the entire place is a mess. But yeah, he's playing completely subpar, and I don't know if it's just because of everything that's gone down, but he doesn't look good.
No, he does not.
No, and it doesn't look, at least to me, it doesn't look like it's a 1 or 2 game thing. It just kind of looks like the talent is just not there the way it used to be. I don't know. I hope this is something he came out of. Baker Mayfield is, I think he's been through a lot and should be able to, still play football, but it just
I think he's better than he's been showing.
Yeah, exactly. And I like it. That's the thing, is I don't want to call him great because it's not really great, but he's good at football, and he does not join that to anyone, and was put through the ringer and came out alive, but is not looking like the person who said you should have picked me, and
absolutely.
And I don't know. It's just a mess. That whole place is a mess. Next, we can talk about the Titans, which I know you're going to love. The Titans have played the Giants and the Bills and lost both games. So why don't you start us off with what I know you're going to talk about? Pick or choose if you want to be in a rebuild or a win now.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly what we talked about in the offseason. Like, I think, I don't know what episode it was, but we talked multiple times about, like, what they were doing made no sense. Because you trade away A.J. Brown, the best player on your offense outside of Derrick Henry probably still is A.J. Brown at this point in their individual careers. I mean, Derrick Henry hasn't looked great, but, like, you're still paying Ryan Tannehill. You didn't draft an early quarterback. You've still got Derrick Henry. You traded for Robert Woods, but like they're stuck somewhere in the middle with not a lot of talent, but still not fully committing to being a rebuild. And that's like, if I was a Titans fan, I would be more upset to be where they are right now than I would be to be the Falcons or the Texans or even the Panthers, probably, because it just seems like they don't know what they want to do. They did not take a hard look at what their team really was after a miraculous year where they went, it was something like 7-1 in 1-score games that led to them being the 1 seed. Yes, they're very well coached and they had some talent last season. But again, then choose to pay that talent, keep them, and keep competing. But they didn't want to do that. So, yeah, the decision makers are stupid, in my opinion. And I like their head coach. I think Mike Vrabel's very good. I actually remembered his name this week.
Congrats.
Thank you. But everything else about what they're doing has never made sense, and now we're just seeing it in action. And yeah, the Bills are the Bills. The Bills look to be just incredible, a juggernaut. But the Titans just rolled over. So.
Yep. Yeah. I was just pulling up while as you were talking. I was looking about some of Ryan Tannehill's stats, and wow, is he bad under pressure? Absolutely, very, very bad grades in all manners while under pressure. Also, not succeeding at the short game, is doing fairly well in the deep game. How do you think he looks this year so far? We haven't really talked about him. We've been talking more about Titans overall.
I mean, not good, but it's hard to tell how much is his fault. Like week 1, his best target was Kyle Phillips, a rookie, either a 4th-round rookie or an undrafted. I completely forget which he was. But and I know there's a big difference, but for some reason in my brain, those are the two things that are sitting there next to his name. Yeah, I mean, he hasn't looked good, but I don't know how much is necessarily to blame for him. Like, the run game hasn't been able to do anything. The offensive line hasn't been good. They just lost Taylor Lewan this past week. Like it's hard for me to say that he looks horrible because I don't want to put all the blame on him. Who are you throwing to? You're throwing to an aged Robert Woods, who finally is starting to look his age, a rookie in Kyle Phillips, and a rookie in Treylon Burks, who was drafted in the 1st round to replace A.J. Brown and then basically wasn't around for 90% of the offseason. So I don't know how you'd expect him to look great because it's not like you expected him to be Tom Brady in the first place.
Correct.
So it's all about kind of reasonable expectations with that, and I think they had too high of expectations.
Yeah, I agree with that. We did get to see a snap from Malik Willis this week.
Yeah.
Poor kid. Yeah. He got one of the welcome to the NFL hits. You know, I watched the replay and I was like, that was a welcome to the NFL hit. And
he's young. He can take it.
He is young. But I was happy to see him at least get a snap, even if it was just because they were getting blown out.
No, the game was over.
Yeah, it was absolutely blown out. Josh Allen was also pulled at that time. All right. We're getting into 3 more teams that have a little bit of, we had a lot higher expectations. Well, I'll switch the 2 we have right now. So why don't we talk about the Colts? The Colts have played the Texans and the Giants.
I put the Colts
you switched
after
them?
the Raiders.
Okay. All right. So we'll talk about the Raiders first. I thought I had it and I thought you would want to. Okay.
And there is a specific reason as to why I switched it, and we'll talk about it when I get to the Colts. But
all right, perfect. So let's talk about it. Raiders, who have played the Chargers and the Cardinals so far, both fairly good teams. So it's a little bit harder to judge, but how are you feeling about the Raiders?
I'm not worried just yet.
Yeah.
I mean, we already knew they had the 4th best quarterback in the division, although Russell Wilson looks horrible. But you play the Chargers, who a lot of people have going to the Super Bowl or darn near close to it. So whatever. And yeah, you completely blew it against the Cardinals. That's inexcusable. I mean, what was it? It was like 23-0, I'm pretty sure, at one point in that game before Kyler Murray decided that he was going to win the game, and then they just let him. And I think we know that the talent isn't really there on defense. But the talent's there on offense, and Devontae Adams had 2 receptions on 7 targets. I'm not crazy worried yet because I've still seen things that I like. And I think there is talent on this team for sure. And I do think Josh McDaniels is at least an intelligent head coach. So I'll be more worried around like week 5 or 6. But I think they lost to, I'm not going to say the Cardinals are a good team because I truly don't think that they are. But sometimes there's guys like Kyler Murray that can just turn it on. And it's like, what are you really going to do right now? Like, this is not the comparison I want to make, but it's the one that's on my mind. I rewatched the Last Dance documentary with Michael Jordan. And that's what Kyler reminded me of. Like, it was just like Michael Jordan when he was able to just flick a switch and then he's like, I'm not going to lose this game. And Kyler wasn't on that level at all because he was still making some mistakes and some weird plays. And it was like, it's like everything didn't count until it was 4th down, and then he would make the most beautiful play I've ever seen. But that's what it felt like. It's probably what it felt like if it was a Raider. Like if you're a Cardinals fan, it was just like, they turned it on and they won. Like it just happened. So
keep it on.
yeah.
But I was looking at their Raiders schedule. We could talk about the Broncos all day long, but they play the Broncos, Chiefs, so like a harder next 2 games.
I'm excited for that Broncos game, actually.
Yeah, I know.
I think we're going to learn a lot.
I agree. But then then they play Texans. So I think you'll have a better idea by the time that game rolls around, and they get to play teams like Texans, Saints, Jags, Colts, all back to back to back to back. So I think you'll get a better understanding of them here. I think they had a little bit of a tougher strength of schedule compared to other teams in these first 2 games. Even if you want to say the Cardinals are not great or not good, whatever, it's still a harder schedule than some of these other teams have played.
Yeah.
So I think it's hard to get a full grasp on them right now. I think overall it's an incredibly well-rounded staff and roster. So I still have hope. This is one of the teams on this list that I'm not worried about because of all of those factors combined. There's teams I'm worried about for losing 2 games that have a well-constructed roster, but easier schedule, if that makes sense.
Well, so that's why I put the Colts next.
All right.
To get to them. They've played the Texans and the Jaguars.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what did it for me. They got shut out by the Jaguars. Yes, I know they were missing Michael Pittman and Alec Pierce.
But
you still got shut out by the Jaguars.
Yep.
Who are, as much as I enjoy them, and I know that I've said before, I like Doug Peterson a lot. I think Trevor Lawrence was going to have a better year. They still are not a great team.
Mm-hmm.
And you should not get shut out by that defense, which is not very good, especially when you have Jonathan Taylor. But that's why I'm worried about the Colts, is because not only have they not won a game, I don't think you could have asked for a better 2 first opponents. Yes, both in division. Division games get wacky. But I meant it when I said that I think there's a very real chance that we could be seeing the end of the Frank Reich era.
You also said something last week that stuck with me, and during your 15-second frenzy, and it was, I'm starting to think there's an issue with the Colts and not with the quarterbacks that they're bringing in. And that has stuck with me all week. I haven't stopped thinking about it.
Yeah, Matt Ryan did not look good. And I gave him a lot of excuses after week 1. I don't think he looked as bad as his stats made him look and as some people think that he did. But, and again, it's tough because their offensive line looks just significantly worse than they should be. And then also you were throwing to Ashton Doolin, Mike Strachan, and Paris Campbell. Like, I get it. There are reasons. But still, it's just, man, I don't know. If Frank Reich is the guy that you think he is, like, these are not the games you should be losing. And it sucks because Frank Reich has just had a real, you walk into that job and it's got to be the dream job, right? You've got a GM who I truly believe is probably one of the best in the league. And you have Andrew Luck. And then all of a sudden you don't. And you've had a new quarterback every season, and what he's done with those quarterbacks has been impressive for the most part. But
at some point, you have to say, if we keep changing quarterbacks and this isn't working, then there has to be another issue here.
Yeah,
like at some point, you'll have to draw the line, and now you have a star as a quarterback, and even if he's not playing it like that, he's still a star at quarterback, and something should still happen, and it's not happening.
And I think they might be getting into that territory of have they really screwed themselves by going for it every year and not being able to ever get that true franchise quarterback? Like they keep getting a middling guy. And that middling guy doesn't let them lose enough games to be in competition for Trevor Lawrence.
Carries for you right to the middle of the pack.
Yeah, like what's the best case scenario has been making the playoffs and being out in the first round.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. The Colts, man, Jake, frequent watcher of the show. He's a Colts fan, and there's just very little reason to be excited. So it sucks.
It also just feels like it's so like discombobulated. Like I feel like the entire coaching staff has you have a decent roster, and it just feels like it's not being used the right way.
Yeah.
Which I think is where I'm running into the biggest issue with it, because listen, again, even in the first 2 weeks, whatever, horrible teams, doesn't matter. If you lose, you lose. It just looks like they have no idea how to use who's on that field.
Yep.
And I think that was incredibly clear this week with Jonathan Taylor. And just not knowing how to, he's like an incredible player, and it just feels like they don't know how to use him, which is strange because they've used him right in the past. And I don't know if it's because Matt Ryan is stepping in or what, but it just feels like nobody is playing up to anybody's, the scheme, the plan is not playing up to anybody's strengths, and that is undoubtedly how you lose a game.
And that's what Frank Reich's supposed to be good at too.
Yeah.
Unless it was Nick Sirianni all along.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because when Frank Reich was hired out from Doug Peterson, the big thing was, oh, Doug is nothing without Frank Reich. And I don't hear people saying that about Nick Sirianni, but all of a sudden, I don't know. It's funny how the world works. I'm waiting for them to hire Shane Steichen, the Eagles offensive coordinator, after they fire Frank Reich as their head coach. That would be legitimately hilarious, actually, if it goes from Doug's offensive coordinator to Frank's offensive coordinator to Nick's offensive coordinator. Yeah, and then I would just know that the next head coach the Eagles are going to have, I can put money on whomever the Colts offensive coordinator is. So that's fun.
Perfect. Let's talk about the big one, Duncan. The last one on our list, the Bengals, who have played the Steelers and the banged-up Cowboys with no Dak Prescott and somehow lost both of those games. I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts, but let's start rolling those thoughts out.
Yeah, so it goes back to something I said last season when I put Zach Taylor on the hot seat.
I was just going to say, talk about Zach Taylor.
He's not a good coach. I truly believe he's not a good coach. And
we got into a fight about this last year, and I agree with you now. I did at the time you put him in the hot seat. I didn't agree with you, but now I see what you're talking about.
I think the worst thing that could have happened for the Bengals is losing in the Super Bowl. I truly wish they lost in the first round of the Titans.
Yeah.
Because I think if they did, I don't know if Zach Taylor is the head coach anymore. Or I think something is different about the coaching staff that when you get to the Super Bowl like they did, which required just, luck, first of all, but you just, Nick Foles should not be a Super Bowl winning quarterback, but here he is. Shit happens in the NFL. I get that. They did not get there because of Zach Taylor. I think they got there in spite of Zach Taylor. I've said it before. And I think that is showing itself now because they don't look good at all. They're in every game, but they wait until the fourth quarter to just get into the game. And they should have dominated both of these teams. They should have destroyed them, or at least destroyed the Cowboys. But they spent $1 billion to fix the offensive line, and that looks horrible. Yes, Michael Parsons is very good, but their offensive line looked horrible. And Zach Taylor is just doing nothing to fix it. When you have a bad offensive line, put a tight end in line to block. Make sure your running back is chipping one of the blockers or the tight end is chipping one of the blockers as they're going out to run their route. I am afraid for Joe Burrow and the Bengals that Zach Taylor bought himself a crap season by going to the Super Bowl, and they still won't make a change. But I don't think either of us had the Bengals making the playoffs in our predictions. Or
a maybe first round, and I don't. But
I know I didn't have them, but I wasn't sure. I didn't remember.
I don't remember. It was either that I did they just missed. I think they missed in mine, but yeah, I echo everything you're saying, and I think there's a lot of issues at play. Their game is very predictable, right? And even Jamar Chase said something like this. You have a player like they do, players like they do, where you're throwing the ball deep a lot with a quarterback like Joe Burrow, who's taking a 7-step drop to toss it down to Jamar Chase. That becomes predictable. Yeah. And when it becomes predictable with a terrible offensive line, all you're going to get is what's happening. Interceptions and sacks. That offensive line literally looks like a kindergartner could break through. And that's an issue.
The team of Michael Duncans might be able to break through.
I know. You said that last week. And honestly, and probably have a sack. That's the way it looks right now. And it's just a mess. And this is not the time to be doing it. You have an entirely rookie contract cast. So the time for you all to crash and burn is not now. You should be making another run, and it doesn't look like it's going to be that way. There's just glaring issues here, and I don't know how they fix it right now. Like I think the offensive line is one of the biggest ones, and I just don't see a way they're able to patch it enough for it to be successful.
I mean, you just have to hope that the money they spent ends up like it's so many new pieces. You just kind of have, and I want to talk to Brad about this actually, but you have to hope that they end up just clicking at some point. But like in reality, like I think it comes down to last year making the Super Bowl depended on their really good players making good plays and not Zach Taylor doing anything to put them in position to do that. And I think there's a chance that, with tape from last season, Zach Taylor's been figured out because he doesn't do anything spectacular or impressive as a coach. So yeah, I don't know if there is a way they fix it. Like, I don't know if there's a way that Zach Taylor is going to fix it because I think that he's content with the way that he is. And I don't know that you can do it with him.
And I mean, I pulled up the numbers again from PFF in the premium stats, and under pressure, his passing grade is a 28.5.
That's very bad.
That's so bad. Like, that is so bad. So much worse than whoever I talked about earlier. And the whole reason is the offensive line. And then nobody can do anything. And then the players aren't getting used to their strengths, because if you have an offensive line who's not going to hold, you're not going to be able to have enough time to do what you want to do with a player like Jamar Chase. So you're running into this cascading issue. This trickle-down issue of what's going on with the offensive line, I think, is wearing off on everyone. And also Zach Taylor trickling down. And I don't know. How many games do they win this year if this is how they're looking right now?
I think I picked them to go either 8 and 9 or 9 and 8. So
do you think if the team you're looking at right now goes with that?
No. Because I probably would have had these two as wins. So
yeah, exactly. So I don't know. That one is more questions than answers to why. Like, but
yeah.
It is crazy. But we did run a little bit over time. But we got to talk about a lot today. Any other things you want to add in real quickly before we go?
No, just go Birds.
Go Giants. We both played division teams this week.
That's true. Oh yeah, we play the Washington.
Cowboys
It's the Wentz revenge game. Oh baby,
it is the Wentz revenge game.
And the Jalen Hurts revenge against the Washington Stadium fence falling on him revenge.
Yes,
game
forgot
also.
about that.
So,
oh my god.
Shout out that.
I'll never. Now I forgot that happened, but that's like forever seared in my memory.
Also, just real quick, I just want to say that the two teams at the top of the AFC and the NFC are my Super Bowl picks. So
congrats.
Not taking a victory lap 2 weeks in, but
a little early.
Yeah, well, you got to do what you got to do. So
yeah. Anyway, Duncan, tell us where we can find you.
You can find me on Twitter at mpduncan75. You can find me producing the Undrafted Dynasty Fantasy Football podcast hosted by @DinoGameTheory, Jax Falcone. And you can find me on Sunday mornings on the Fantasy Football Chat Discord hosting the Under the Wire live start-sit show from 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, helping you with all of your start-sit needs and giving you someone to blame when what I tells you goes wrong. So we all need that in fantasy football, and I am there for you. So
I love that. So sweet of you. Putting others before yourself.
Except for you, because I don't give you advice anymore.
Every time I jump in, you yell at me.
Yeah, because you don't listen. So I'm done wasting my time giving you advice.
Yeah, you yelled at me, and another one of the people was like, "What is happening?" Because they just didn't know.
Yeah, they didn't realize that you weren't just a random person in the chat.
Yeah, that this is just our dynamic. Yeah. Anyway, you can find me on Twitter at Ashley_Marie with 2 A's at the beginning of Ashley. You can find all my content with the Undroppables, and you can have all of the Undroppables content and firsthand experiences with the Undroppables by being able to access our premium Discord channel. In there, you can talk about fantasy, betting, anything football, really anything, all sports. It's a great place to come and hang out and talk some shop with some people. You could get access to that by going to patreon.com/theundroppables. And you can find both of us here live every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Twitter, Twitch, and Facebook. And you can find us next day wherever you listen to your podcasts. We thank you for spending your precious Wednesday evening with us. We hope you have a wonderful weekend of football, and I hope your team wins, unless you're a Cowboys fan.
I can agree with that.
Yeah. All right, guys. Have a good night.
Have a wonderful day, and go Water Dogs.
Go Water